My husband's voice cut through the laughter like a blade. "How dare you say no to my mother, you stupid?" The words echoed in the crowded room, bouncing off walls lined with decorations and half-empty glasses. Everyone froze. Conversations died mid-sentence. My cheeks burned, but I didn't retreat. I stayed planted, my fork in hand, heart racing but face calm. I had known he could be explosive, but tonight felt different. More calculated, more vicious. His mother, sitting with that ever-perfect, disapproving smile, didn't flinch. She never did. She'd always been untouchable, the golden matriarch everyone tiptoed around. But I was done tiptoeing. Her eyes gleamed with silent approval of his anger. And the room was waiting as if everyone needed to see this power play unfold. I caught my brother's glance across the table. Confusion, discomfort, disbelief. No one intervened. No one had ever. It hadn't started here. The tension had been building, quiet and corrosive, for months. Small things first, a dismissive glance, a subtle insult, a backhanded comment that left me doubting my own voice. Then came the commands disguised as requests, and the constant comparisons to the woman he wished I were. Each party, each family dinner, a test. Each failure another weapon in his arsenal. I had complied, smiled, laughed, nodded. I had tried. But tonight his rage had gone too far. And yet, beneath the anger, I noticed the cracks. The tight jaw, the shaking hands, the way his mother's eyes darted nervously for a moment before settling again. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. I had been watching, learning, preparing. I had been collecting every moment, every slight, every injustice. And now the story wasn't just about humiliation. It was about power. My power. Quiet, hidden, unstoppable. The party went on around us, but I was somewhere else, calculating, observing. Every laugh, every clink of glass, every forced smile from our guests was a background hum to the storm I felt building inside. My husband, still red-faced, paced near the buffet, muttering under his breath. His mother sipped her wine, seemingly serene, but I caught the subtle tremor in her fingers. She thought she controlled everything. She thought she could bend me, humiliate me, erase me. She was wrong. I remembered the nights I had lain awake, replaying every incident. Every condescending remark, every whispered command, every moment of public shaming. I had felt powerless then, but not anymore. Power wasn't about shouting or striking fear. Power was patience, observation, strategy. It was knowing when to speak, and when to let silence do the talking. And tonight I would let it speak louder than any yell, any insult, any act of domination. My daughter, small and quiet, tugged at my sleeve. Her wide eyes, innocent but knowing, looked up at me. She had seen enough to understand that this was not normal, that this was not love. I gave her a subtle nod, a tiny acknowledgement that she was safe, that I had plans, that justice would eventually find its way. She didn't need to hear my thoughts. Children absorb more than adults think. Their silence carries truth heavier than any accusation. When he finally stormed outside, slamming the door behind him, I let the room exhale. Everyone avoided my gaze, afraid, unsure, waiting for the next move. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. I let them stew in the aftermath. Because the best revenge, the kind that leaves no room for argument, doesn't come from fury. It comes from meticulous patience, from knowing the story will eventually unfold exactly the way it was meant to. And I had already written the first chapters. Later that night, I sat alone in the quiet of our living room. The echoes of his anger had faded, but the weight of what had happened lingered. I reviewed every detail of the evening, the stares, the hushed whispers, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I had let him think he had won. I had let him believe his rage had power. But real power was invisible. It was subtle. It was patience and timing. The next morning I began setting things into motion. Nothing rash, nothing loud. Just small, deliberate actions. Closing accounts he assumed were untouchable, documenting patterns no one else could see, creating a trail of truth that would unravel the illusion of control he so desperately clung to. Every move was calculated. Every silent step carried purpose. And in the end, it wouldn't be a confrontation that broke him. It would be exposure, inevitable and undeniable, orchestrated not by anger, but by clarity and justice. When the consequences finally fell, they didn't come as shouts or screams. They came as realization, quiet, shattering, and permanent. My husband, his mother, and the guests who had watched with silent approval all understood the truth without me having to speak it aloud. And my daughter, safe and small, smiled, unaware of the full weight of victory, yet knowing in her heart that justice at last had arrived.